Hi, everyone. My name is John Bailey. I'm the president of the International Institute for Restorative Practices Graduate School. The IIRP Graduate School is the world's first graduate school wholly dedicated to restorative practices, the science of relationships and community. This conversation is part of a series that we're calling Three Questions, where I'll highlight new and innovative thinkers from the field of restorative practices and beyond, and ask them, you guessed it, three questions. Today, it's my pleasure to talk to Lauren Mosco-Bailey. Lauren is the co-founder and instructor at the Thrive Empowerment Center. Thrive Empowerment Center offers practical, female-led, trauma-informed personal safety and assault resistance education. Their supportive community fosters growth, strength, confidence, and healing. They also integrate restorative practices into what they do, so I'm sure you'll all be fascinated by their work, as I have been. Lauren spent 2 decades in the commercial book publishing industry, most recently serving as the director of Kirkus Editorial, a division of Kirkus Media. And as a martial artist, she's earned a black belt in combat Hapkido through the International Combat Hapkido Federation and holds rank in Filipino Kali and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. She currently serves on the board of directors for the National Women's Martial Arts Federation as a member coordinator. She completed level 1 instructor trainings in both Empowerment Self-Defense Global and Assert Empowerment and Self-Defense, and received a trauma competency certification from ESD Global. And I have one favorite quote from Lauren that I wanted to read. This is Lauren's quote. I believe that everyone has the right to move through life with confidence rather than fear. And I'm passionate about sharing the knowledge I've been given to help them do so. And I completely agree with that, which I think is wonderful. So Lauren, welcome. And I don't know if you want to tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Thank you. You pretty much covered it. I'm also a mom of 2 kids. And, I got started in martial arts because I felt like I was largely living my life in fear and, just afraid I couldn't take care of my kids, afraid I would freeze if something happened. And so I found martial arts. And then through the National Women's Martial Arts Federation, I found Empowerment Self-Defense. And, I thought that editing was going to be my passion and my lifelong work. And, when I found Empowerment Self-Defense, it just felt like such a huge important thing and something that our community here in the greater Cincinnati area really could benefit from, and just lit a fire in me that had been dormant. And so I feel very grateful to be doing this work.
Great. All right, so here are the 3 questions. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so your work with Empowerment Self-Defense is incredibly innovative and unique, both in the realms of martial arts as well as psychology. What is Empowerment Self-Defense, and what need does it fulfill in your students?
Thank you, John. So Empowerment Self-Defense as a curriculum is very different from the typical self-defense that you might get from a police station or a martial arts dojo or something like that. Because first and foremost, it acknowledges the statistical realities of violence. A lot of times in those community self-defense classes, like they're very much training you for the stranger in the alley who's going to jump out of the bush. But the truth of the matter is, that stuff does happen, but 80% of assault comes from someone that you know. And so empowerment self-defense spends a lot of time on the mental and verbal aspects of self-defense, trying to stop you from ever getting to the point where you have to hit somebody. We do teach strikes and kicks and elbows and all that stuff, but we really start back at like trusting your intuition, being aware of your surroundings, being able to set boundaries for yourself and say what you do and do not want in your life, with your family members, with your friends, co-workers, as well as, being prepared for someone who might accost you on the street. Like I said, it takes a holistic approach. So we're doing the mental, the verbal, and the physical. And we try to address the entire continuum of violence. So there's people who come in our door who are looking for violence prevention. Of course, we want to help you with the violence interruption if you ever, come to that moment of truth. But so many of the people who come to thrive have already experienced violence of one form or another. Like they're rape survivors, they're domestic violence survivors, like they've been bullied at school. And so, we spend just as much time on the healing aspects of self-defense and on the like self-esteem and just knowing and believing that you're worth fighting for, like long before we get to the physical part. And then last, empowerment self-defense really understands and that interpersonal violence has its roots in cultural, gender, and historical oppression. So, like it's no accident that we feel like we're living in violent times. And, this is something that we can make each individual safe, but we also have to work for change in our communities to make our communities safer.
All right. Excellent. You're doing inspirational work, as you said, with both the survivors of sexual assault and other trauma on their path to healing. In your experience, what's the role of community in that process, which you mentioned briefly there? And how do you use circles and encourage voice in your teaching and learning?
Well, to begin with, community just felt like something that was really intuitive, like someone's hurt in any capacity and, we want to support them. The like constant refrain and things is like, oh, you're not alone. Oh, I'll listen to you. But then as I started reading about trauma psychology, I don't know, John, if you've read probably Dr. Judith Herman's Trauma and Recovery. It's a, quintessential work. And she has like a whole section of her book on the importance of community, that in order for survivors of any kind of trauma, be it a rape or someone who's seen like combat time in
Yeah.
war, they need to feel safe first and foremost. They need a safe space to like remember and mourn, whatever it is has happened to them, and then they need reconnection with the community.
Yeah.
Like it's that a lot of times the tools of predators of various kinds is isolation and control. So, to work to rebuild, what was lost in that isolation period, and people who have experienced tremendous trauma, they feel like nobody could ever understand, like how devastated I feel, or like the terrible things that I had to do or say to survive that situation. And so just like holding space, like physically and metaphorically, to be like, hey, whatever you did at that time to survive, you did your very best. Like you can tell your stories. We're strong enough here as a community to hold those stories and to witness them for you. And like, you are not alone anymore. We can't make that pain go away, but we can be with you through that time. So that is a lot. Our tagline at Thrive is strength, support, community, because you cannot have that restoration and reconnection without a supportive community. And then in terms of circles, we actually start and end each session with a circle. We circle up, we have everybody sit down. Myself and my partner, Lindsay, who is a domestic violence and rape survivor, like we start by introducing ourselves and kind of giving the why of like, what are we doing here? Why do we teach empowerment self-defense? And telling a little bit about our historic stories to just to set that tone, like this is indeed a safe space. We're going to put ourselves out there and be vulnerable, and it's okay for you to be vulnerable too. And we do get a lot of disclosure in those first few minutes in that circle. And, and as you well know, just that positioning in a circle really immediately creates that sense of collaboration, like egalitarianism. Another thing in empowerment self-defense is, Lindsay and I and the other ESD instructors, we don't hold ourselves up as experts. Like we're just women who've been given this amazing knowledge, and we are somewhere on our own paths of healing. No matter what we're coming from, and it's like I'm not here to tell you what you should or shouldn't do, or like where you're going wrong and how to live your life. Like I'm just here to share these tools with you, and you have the agency to decide what works for you, what you want to apply and what helps you along on your journey. and just that inclusion and collaboration, and and we try to incorporate just humor and stories, and as much as we can within that circle space, just to to make it feel like we're all in this together.
Sounds like getting a black belt in relationships.
I
You
never thought
deserve
about.
one. You deserve a black belt in relationships. You should.
I was actually thinking that maybe I need to come to IIRP for graduate school. I need another master's degree so that I can get my black belt in relationships.
All right. All right. So last question. If you could make one broad recommendation to women in particular around psychological and physical self-defense, what would it be?
The first thing is that self-defense starts with knowing that you are worth fighting for, that you are worth defending, that you matter and your voice matters. And so, and that's not easy to do, especially, a lot of times as, as women or other marginalized groups, like we've been taught to, be quiet, be polite, don't make anybody else uncomfortable, to sacrifice our own needs for, for somebody else's comfort. And so I would encourage them to find some kind of a group, if there's an empowerment self-defense in your area or some place that does, virtual, yeah, everybody's adapted, to COVID. So there's a lot of virtual training, but find that community where you can get that support to start, just having the attitude of safety and of confidence. And then the other tools, the physical tools and the verbal tools will come.
Excellent. So what should people do if they want to learn more about your work? And plug your
Sure.
website too, because your website's great.
Yeah, thank you so much. You can find us online at thriveselfdefense.com. And we're also on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook at Thrive Empowerment.
All right, excellent. Anything else you want to say before we end for today?
I'm so grateful for this opportunity, especially, you as also as a martial artist, and, it's just great to spend time with other people who are passionate about, community and reconnection, and, just trying to make this world a little bit better place and doing what we can. So I'm grateful. Thank you, John.
All right, my pleasure. Good talking to you.